All right, guys, credit to our guys. I thought they were gutsy and had some tremendous performances and just stayed with it, kept swinging throughout the game. Give them credit. I think Maryland's a really tough and tough-minded team, so yeah, good win for our guys.
Chris, did you know your team had this level of toughness in it to play a team like that plays the way that it did, to force it to overtime, second overtime? Did you know your team could do something like this?
You know, I think we've improved in some of that, Adam, and I think as much as anything, their minds have been in a pretty good place, and I think that's where it begins right now. But I'm assuming that's kind of what you're referring to in terms of toughness, like a mental toughness, the ability to keep coming. You know, I don't think you ever really truly know until it happens, but I was pretty confident just with how they prepared.
So what does it say, or what does it mean that at this point of the season, given how the last couple of weeks have gone, and you hear what people are saying about the direction of things, but to win a game like this,
Yeah,
or the way that you had to win it, what does this say about where you guys are right now?
you know, I love some of what we've had from our guys that we've talked about that are kind of the foundational pieces of our team and our program. Guy like Bruce, in terms of how he's led in practice the last couple of days, but you know, Roddy's ability to impact the game in a different way. Even a guy like Dale, who's in his first year, but his mindset has been so good in terms of helping this group both in practice and in games, even though he's a quieter guy. Evan, Felix, we've had a lot of guys who have, I think, really had the right approach, and as a coach, you're just glad that they, finally found the reward of a win.
Bruce in this game ultimately scores the game winner. You feel like he was really coming downhill, attacking the rim. I mean, this just felt like an offensive game that he maybe hasn't had as much of lately. Just what was there something different Maryland was doing defensively, or was it a different approach Bruce had? What did you see from him in this?
You know, we met this week and talked through some things, we were just trying to look at some things we needed to do to potentially help him, but also we wanted him to have a more aggressive mindset, because we trust him to make the right play or make the right read. There's been some games where he struggled, and he's getting a lot of attention, but we did like some of the matchups that he was going to see tonight.
Coach Roddy said you might have smiled for a second.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind when you're on the court? You could celebrate another win with your guys.
Yeah, just really happy for our guys. Yeah, I mean, they've worked pretty hard, as you know, Adam, in terms of, like, they're good kids and they've worked hard. And, I think as you know, we've been close in a couple games. And it was a gut punch the other day, It was a gut punch for our players, our coaches, and I'm sure it was a gut punch for our fans. And I felt terrible during this whole stretch for all those people, our fans, our players, our coaches, and I would say this: I thought our fans were unbelievable. It was a really good crowd, and the fact that they were as I think they carried us. One of the coaches just said, "Man, I think our fans carried us the last maybe 15 minutes when you include regulation." And I just give them a ton of credit right now. But I was just really happy for our guys.
Bruce immediately turned the attention to the next game, trying to carry that over. How do you guys, just the energy down the stretch, closing out a game, how do you follow that up and take it with you to Wisconsin?
Well, I think it's that, and I think it's also looking at some of our positives, just like we'll look at some of the challenges. How do we play harder, longer? How do we play tougher, longer, better? How do we be more detailed? We were not as detailed as we needed to be. It's my responsibility in the last 2 minutes of the Indiana game. And we were better with that today.
Chris, I know Zeb was under the weather, but
Yeah.
checks in the second half. You see some huge minutes. And
He did.
The screen that he set as well as the block he had.
Yeah.
Just what was your reaction to that kind of impact?
Really happy for Zeb. I didn't know if he was going to play. The text I got from Tony, our trainer, does a great job. Tony does a great job, and he said, "I'm not sure he's going to have the energy to go." So I was trying, in essence, to not have to use him. But his wall up at the end was terrific. It was terrific. I was just really happy for Zed. He's able to come in there and really give us a lift when we needed it, and got an offensive rebound, and he was highly engaged, so I'm just really happy for him.
And did the smile come before or after the windmill dunk? What was your
Yeah,
reaction to that one?
probably in the middle of it, yeah, probably in the middle of it, yeah.
Chris Maris of the win. What was the game plan coming in to stop Jameer and
Yeah.
Dante?
Well, they do, he's obviously a tremendous talent. They run a lot of ghost and isolations for him. I thought when we could keep Roddy on him, we felt pretty good because of Roddy's size. You know, he's a unique talent because he's so explosive. He can make threes, he can score it at all three levels, but he can also drive to post. They ran an action late in one of the overtimes where they drove to post it, and they score on that a ton. They've beaten teams on that. And Roddy wouldn't let him get there because of his length and size. It's a great example of a kid who was not playing well offensively and yet impacted the game in a way that I've always said Roddy's chance to be the best player we believe he can be, which is a very good one, is to be a two-way player, and he showed that today.
And just one more for you about Julian. He played almost the whole game.
Right.
What was your game plan coming into that? 'Cause I mean, he's their leading scorer, and he's a dominant on both.
He's their second leading scorer, yeah, to Jameer. But, yeah, he's a really good player. I think our post traps bothered him at the end of the first half. We were able to turn him over and make him shoot in some crowds. And then in the second half, they got a couple open threes off of our post traps. We had to pull it off and dig off some other guys because they got a couple open threes. But I thought it bothered him. He's a good player. He's a talented kid and a good player.
I know Devin had a few fouls in the second half, but he still finished with, a couple offensive rebounds, a couple steals, 5 points. What do you think he did well today in the first half, especially when you guys were kind of chasing Maryland and he was the energy that was keeping you in there?
Yeah, I thought he gave us a good lift. I really do. I think he's done that. You know, we've talked about that. He's done that. He's given us a good lift. He's got to figure out how to foul a little bit less. I think that's a lesson. He's learning that. But man, his ability to score the ball and score it, in the seams of the defense, score it in the middle of the floor against their zone was important.
Bruce said he talked to Devin a little bit about not getting too high, not getting too low, don't let
Yeah.
the crowd kind of get you too high. Do you think with Devin on defense, is it more of a form thing, or do you think that Bruce said that like maybe the moment he just gets a little too amped up on defense?
I think it's just him learning the technique required and the effort required. He's not, he's guarding bigger guys, he's guarding smaller guys out on the floor. It's just a learning process for him. He's going to be a good defender, but it's going to take him some time.
Coach, Maryland's offense was pretty active, lots of off-ball screens and away from the ball movement. What did you do to keep your guys steady and make sure they didn't get lost out there and prevent like the open shots like away from the ball screen?
Yeah, I didn't think we were great in the first 10 minutes defensively, but I thought we'd settled in the last 10 minutes of the first half, and then the second half, our numbers were way better. Our overall numbers were very good. They're a team that has struggled some offensively, but I think their defense has been their strength. They're phenomenal defensively, 6th in the country defensively, so we knew it could be a difficult game for us to score. But yeah, I think as much as anything, once we settled in after those first 10 minutes, we just did a good job with the game plan, and I thought some of the adjustments.
Chris, given how the last month has gone this time around, I think the last 2 games have probably been as emotional as they can be.
Sure.
In your experience, which holds more weight when you're dealing with a team that's still relatively young with some of the guys you're playing here, but gaining more experience by the
Yeah.
way?
Which is
How Tuesday's game ended
Oh, yeah.
versus how today's game ended is kind of the same concept as if one.
Yeah, well, I mean, you'd always rather teach from a win than a loss. As I mentioned, that was a gut punch the other day because, you have a 2-point lead in the last minute and you'd like to be able to close that thing out. We didn't do it. But I thought, it's an honest film session. I think it has to be this time of year. But I think you'd always rather, the biggest thing for us is I just really wanted them, I feel like they've been working hard in practice. I feel like we have been getting better. They needed to feel, the reward of a win. They need to feel that validation. So hopefully it's something we can build on.
How do you
given everything that's kind of gone on this year, even going back to last season, how do you kind of allow yourself to enjoy these moments when you do have big wins? Or do you allow that, is it just on the Wisconsin?
Yeah, I mean, it's a relatively quick, it's a good question. You know, we've talked about that as a coach. It's hard for a coach to do this. And I just, again, I think as a coach in this position, you know, you're happy for the 13,000 that were here supporting us. And you're happy for, most importantly, for your kids and for your staff to be able to go back and, you know, enjoy a drink and enjoy their family and, you know, I've told you, you know, these 2 years personally have been, they've been a challenge. They've been probably the hardest thing I've went through. So I think as much as anything, you're glad for you know, your guys to enjoy this and 13,000 that were here that were supporting us, for them to feel good. And it's kind of a thrilling end there. And that's what you're most happy about.
Bruce, at the end of the game, overtime, just kind of being the point guard. You talked about some of the matchup stuff, but when he's able to do that, how much does that change what you guys do offensively?
You know, they were playing drop coverage. I think when teams are and they did jump him a few times. He did a good job giving it up. They ran at him, tried to get the ball out of his hands a couple times, but they were, for most of the game, in drop coverage. We felt like we could attack that in the middle of the floor. But he also just played with, I think, a degree of confidence that he's earned the last couple practices, and it was good to see him play that way. And hopefully we can help him. I think giving him a little more space out there with the smaller lineup helped, which we talked about there late. I think that helped us as well.
Finish up with that. What were the huddles like going from regulation to overtime, overtime to second overtime? What were those moments like? What did you see for your guys?
Well, Bruce was doing a great job talking. I think Jameson said some things. Evan, Felix, Roddy, they were all really talking. That was really good to see. I think, you know, for us as coaches, we were in foul trouble. So it was figuring out adjustments, figuring out if we did want to continue to trap Reese, if we did want to trap one off the ball. It was just making sure we were on point with some of our defensive assignments. That was really what the huddles were about.
And then what did you like about when this game threatened to get, like, early, they pushed it to 10, and they seemed to be imposing themselves on you guys a little bit.
Yeah.
You were able to flip it there and close the first half strong, and that kind of set the
Yeah.
tone. But what enabled this team to do that when it felt like it could have very quickly gone sideways on you?
Yeah, I think our defense settled in. Those last 4 minutes were, I don't know if they were the difference in the game, the last 4 minutes of the first half, but they were really critical, those last 4 minutes. I just thought we settled in defensively. Again, we were able to get a couple turnovers off some of our trapping, and then Bruce settled in kind of offensively with some of the middle of the floor stuff that allowed us to get that thing manageable, and then obviously get a lead. So I loved how we were. You know, as you guys know, we have not been great at times in the last 4 minutes of the first half, but they were terrific today. They really were. All right, guys.
Thanks, guys.